Look at my paper here. I wrote stuff down. Oh, trauma. This is thing to know number 3 about trauma. Trauma, for those of you who don't know trauma, and those of you who are wondering about how to heal, okay? You like using maybe mom or doc, right? Healing and trauma. Oh, little sub point about enemy types. There's a guy who will web you up, and you'll sometimes see your character, your buddy, fly off to the left to the right and then be like this. And I can't tell you how many games I'm in at this point where folks will, like, my teammates will run up to me and like not know what to do and then shoot me a whole bunch. I don't know if I take damage. I'm playing on veteran. Maybe I'm protected from damage when I'm in the cocoon. I haven't paid attention. All I know is that it's obvious that they're either trolling me or they just don't know what to do, because they're just like blah, 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 and then running around and fighting and then looking at me, and they don't have no idea. Melee it. Just melee. It says it on the screen. It'll give you even a tooltip, but maybe they don't read that shit, or it's just too crazy. They're too scared or nervous. I don't know what's going on. Or they're just like, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. You know, like the first thing they want to do is like set off every alarm and not take you out because they want to act dumb. I really want to think the best. Anyway, just melee it. Okay, let's move on, right? Melee the web people. They'll free them. What was it talking about? Trauma. What is trauma? So if you want to be, I think if you want to be effective at healing, you got to really think about the work that trauma does. Okay? When I take damage, I can't even, I have red damage here, right? And I can't heal myself. But that red damage can be healed by a bandage. It can be healed by a bandage. Okay? Can I
This is going to be messy.
Okay, check that out. So I've got red damage, and then next to that, I have this checkered line. That's trauma. Okay? So this is what's going on when you take hits. Not only are you taking your damage from the hit, but your max health is decreasing the more times you get hit. So really good players and really good teams don't get hit. Essentially is what the game is trying to tell you. It's trying to tell you handle shit so effectively and so fiercely, and prepare yourself as you go through each section of the map, not letting anything touch you, because you got eyes every fucking where, including behind you where a lot of shit likes to just freaking spawn. Don't get hit, because you're not just getting hit one way and your health is going down this way. Your max health is also going down. You're getting hit and this is why sometimes when you've gone down a couple of times, it's like you get hit once and you're dead again. It's because you couldn't heal any of that. Like right now, maybe like a third of that first bar on my character's health bar is gone. I can't heal that. The only way I can heal that is if I go to a med station. So sometimes I'll be playing with like a lot of trauma, and my health that I can't be healed is all the way. And I've got a doctor running around me, pinging me, trying to like look, you know, trying to heal me, not knowing why I'm not getting healed, getting frustrated. And it's because they don't understand how trauma works. Because of how trauma works, right? You really want to try to top off people as often as possible. So I think that the big med kit is a waste of money for the healer. This is my opinion. If somebody takes a big hit in the beginning of the match, then the med kit is helpful, right? But a lot of times what happens is that people, you know, when they're on fire, when they're on it, when they're doing well, they're getting hit by little things by mistake, and they're getting chip damage. You're thinking, let me leave that alone. But their max health is also coming down, and so they're actually like, you might not notice it because it's dark on the screen or whatever the case is, but their ability to survive is like compoundingly becoming more dangerous for them, right? So you want to top them off, and I think that the bandage goes further. Especially if you start adding mods that add more healing to anything that you do. If the big bandages, if the big ones could heal trauma, then it would be great. But they don't heal trauma. The only thing that heals trauma is the med station when you find them, which is why everybody has to start getting into like saving their coins, because you're going to use them, you know. But so for that reason, and then pills, don't sleep on pills, man, because pills provide sort of like an overshield. I think that the health that you get from pills can temporarily overcompensate your trauma. I think. Test it out. I don't know. I wish there were pills out here so I could test it out. But pills are good for right before an encounter. Like when shit is hitting the fan, you feel it, that's when you can pop the pills. And if you're a medic and you have a particular, you know, like your healing efficiency is up and all that stuff, sometimes that blue bar that comes up can be pretty sizable and be very helpful. Pills are a great way to set people up before an encounter, and if you're using pills on them aggressively, especially if you have the card that increases the amount of healing items that are on the map, those pills are going to get better because you're going to start seeing, and then you've upgraded into support items like between each mission. Then you're going to start to see, like, let's say blue and purple rarity pills, and it'll be like a nice big chunk of health right before an encounter, and that's great because all that health, you know, it's temporary, but it doesn't matter. It's a shield on your health that will help absorb a lot of the initial damage of the encounter. Then you can use bandages to heal them, and for the use of big bandages, I think it's for the player that is not a healer but is anticipating that they're gonna get hurt. And if they're separated from a dock, or if you're on a team where there is no support, then yeah, like after you're done with encounter, you can use the big bandage to cover all of that red. But for the actual healer, trying to maximize, I think it's better to just keep everybody topped off with bandages and pills.
Scary. Okay,
be wary of trauma, and trauma resistance is valuable, even a little bit, because it stacks up, and you don't, and it stacks up over the course of an entire act. So by the time that you get to the final mission of the act, like everybody's max health is like 2/4 down, a halfway, I'm sorry, 2/4, half, 2/3, whatever, and their available actual health is like so minimal that it really sucks. It's very stressful, you know. So be wary of that, and don't assume that just because somebody has like a half bar of trauma that like a big med pack that you spent a lot on is going to save them. Get some support mods and make more deliberate, use of bandages and pills throughout the zone. Let me look at my piece of paper over here. Oh, back to explosives. Okay, use the map. These red cans are everywhere. You pay attention?
Gotta hurt.
Right? When you're kiting enemies, use that shit. Okay, that was a bonus tip. It's not on the list. Supply lines. Supply lines. They get more expensive the more you unlock. This is a cheap one, actually, that just unlocked. This is also not as expensive as the last one. I just unlocked one where it cost me like, it was like 100, 100, 100, 150, 100. Anyway, I think maybe I followed that line consistently more than these. That's why that one was more expensive. But anyway, what I was gonna say is that it appears that the cost can go up if you stick with one line. If that's the case, then that suggests that there's a point where, because you get more supply points for finishing higher difficulty missions from recruit, veteran, nightmare. So my guess is that if stuff's becoming very expensive, then maybe you've already gotten a lot of the cards that are very useful for veteran, and it's a good idea to try to diversify so that you'll have more builds and you'll have more characters that you can play with different options, as you dominate veteran, and then, you know, prepare yourself to move on to nightmare, rather than doing so many more missions on veteran and not getting as much for your work because the costs are so expensive. So basically what I'm saying is, you know, if it takes you more than an afternoon or maybe even 2 afternoons just to get one supply line unlocked, then maybe that supply line is already advanced far enough that it's meant to support like nightmare difficulty stuff, and it would be easier to pay for it with nightmare difficulty wins. So maybe diversify and move on to another line that's cheaper if you're still farming veteran. I don't know, something to think about. Another thing about health. Okay, back to health. Sorry, I'm zigzagging. There's a moment. This is another tinfoil theory, but there's a moment. So, there's a tooltip that comes up and says that when you're under 20% health, your character will move slowly. And the way to look to other people is that you're stumbling, you know, wobbling and stuff. It's a really like a funny wobble walk. When I'm under that level of health, it appears, even without mods, like corruption mods that seem to be affecting the horde, it really does appear that the horde moves faster, gets more aggressive, and zeroes in on weak targets. Like zeroes in on them. It's amazing. They're aggressive and they will just move, you know, like that. Like piranha. So my tinfoil theory is that not only does your character move more slowly, but surrounding hordes become more aggressive when you're on the brink of death. I mean, I've been in matches where everybody's low and it's like as soon as we're out the door, everything is just swarming. I'm like, how the hell is this happening? I mean, it doesn't help when people are doing stuff to summon the hordes, which I won't get into right now, but I'm gonna have a rant at some point. I can't have a rant right now because I caused the hordes on several occasions today. But nevertheless, be aware that if there's a teammate that is weak, you might need to try to defend them, you know, like look out for them, because I think they're going to attract and make enemies more aggressive, or use them as bait. Yeah, I mean, if there are no other options and they seem to be popular with the ridden, then maybe launch a Molotov at their feet and then just pick them up later in the map when they respawn. I mean, if you mute everybody, you know how you can like mute all? If you mute everybody, then you know, I mean, if they're complaining but then you win, then, you know, they'll get it, right? I mean, have a plan is what I'm saying. Don't just kill people. That's not nice. You'll lose too. But if you have a plan, then, you know, I mean, sometimes I wouldn't do it to you. If we're working on a team, I will you know, I'll look out. Anyway, trauma. Okay, no, that oh, another one, right? Okay, another thing about explosives. I keep talking about explosives. Cans. I don't have any cans out here to play with. Imagine a little white can or like a red can of fire, right? You'll see those red cans of fire or a white can that's explosive. One sets something on fire, the other one just blows up. They're like grenades that are just lying around, right? You got to carry them and stuff. So sometimes you'll see them lying around, be like, man, I got nothing to blow up with. I don't know when I just carry for a little bit and then just drop it because I don't know where I'm going to use it. Okay, since you're going to be running back and forth a lot, sometimes you'll be turning a corner and then there's going to be a big thing, oh, and then there's another big thing, oh, you got to run this way and then you got to duck, da-da-da-da. Wouldn't it be great if, as you're backtracking, you see a thing you left on the floor, right? And then you just turn around and pop, and then that saves your ass. It's smart. So proactively planning traps. Whenever you see cans, like you go into a room and you're scrounging for scrap, and then you find a can, you're like, what do I do with it? Take it out of that corner and drop it on your path as you continue, so that in the event you gotta run back, I mean like quite the distance, and you're like the last guy on your team, and you're trying to be smart and you're trying to juke, 2 or 3 different, whatever, and they all in a line. It's like a big guy he's gonna charge you, and then there's a tall boy, and then there's like a little dude, who's trying to yoke you up and and web you up so that they could get you and stuff, which is really, it's so mean. It's great to turn around and shoot that thing and get them, like that's what you get. So you and everybody, even if you don't have a forward-thinking plan about like how you, because you don't even know what you're going to face, about where to use those things, put them in a line. Put them in a line along the road as you can. So and don't get too mad if someone who doesn't understand what you're doing just blows them up. Like they see them and they just blow them up. Like they'll sometimes blow them up in your hands. These fun randoms.
Telling me.
That's a thing that happens apparently. But just keep trying, because maybe if you spread the news and if you just lay them down and it saves enough lives, people will understand that you can lay the groundwork for some life-saving techniques by putting some explosives on the ground, so that as you're kiting back enemies, you can just shoot that stuff on the road and they will die as they're chasing you, right? It's a good idea. So I think get into the habit of doing that. And try not to blow up your friends, though. I mean, I can't say that there's never a situation where that wouldn't be useful. You'll know it when you see it. But I would say in general, don't do that. I would say in general, don't just blow them up just because they're highlighted. And, you know what I'm saying? They're there for a reason. What's the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, okay. The wretches. Big guys. So there's like, imagine all those guys, that's you, right? You're all these dudes. You're one of these dudes, right? And I'm a wretch. I'm one of the big guys that spit.
Thank you.
Right? And this is what happens. Right? I spit at you. And then you turn around to fight me and I'm like, mad far away. So then you're like, so you turn around to deal with the problem that's in front of you. You got a couple of, ridden that are trying to bite you, and you could hear something running around. It's one of those guys that like to give you a chokehold and drag you into the bushes. And you're like, no, not me. And so you start focusing on trying to find that guy and ping him in it. And then here I am, the wretch, and I go, and then I go back. Okay, that shit is so annoying. And there is almost always one. There's certain maps where there's always one, okay? And then, you're that guy. You got a team of people. You got one melee. You got 3 people using SMGs for whatever reason. And you're that one guy that's like, man, I'm tired of this shit. So you go charging off to distance to go find that guy. And that dude is just running away. He's like, he's running away. And then you finally shoot him. And it doesn't matter because you're shooting him with like an SMG. You're like, bing, 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 right? So then he keeps running, and then what happens to you, right? The other teammates don't know what you're doing, so they're thinking, screw that guy. Or they split up, 2 are dealing with one mess, so another person's trying to help you out or whatever. Once you split up, the job is done. Because that was what it wanted in the whole thing. It wanted to put poison on your spot to get you to move from your position in order to set you up for an ambush. Okay, that's what the game is trying to do. The game is trying to bait you, and it's trying to mess up your flow. There is a counter to that. There's like one counter to that makes so much sense. That it's not even about a play style. It's like that's what you need on the team. Okay, somebody has to pack a sniper rifle, and preferably someone with the mods that makes them built like a sniper.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Because that shit will ruin a run. And when it's one after the other after the other. Every time you kind of like focus fire one, then you're caught off guard by someone close to you, and then there's another one over the hill that's, you know, shooting you. No, man, they're like balloons that you want to blow up. Okay, think about the guy who, you know, is ready, you know, ridden killer, you know, pulls out his freaking phoenix, you know, catches that fricker as soon as he peeks to like throw up on you, blow, and pop, you know. It's like, it's just what needs to happen. It will defend you and neutralize that whole threat throughout the map. There's certain maps where will happen more than others, and you'll start to learn what they are. In general, right, snipers are godsends. But I mean, just like a good melee is a godsend, just like a good support that is helping mitigate all of the trauma that's going on is a godsend. And when I say mitigate, again, they can't heal trauma, but what they can do is they can keep you topped off so that you're still at your upper limits of max health. You're not dealing with wounds on top of the trauma that's coming down. You know what I'm saying? So they're there to basically keep you strong and keep you away from that 20% threshold that will like get the ridden like frothing at the mouth and swarming around you more crazy, you know. So yeah, it's a big deal. Now if you don't have a sniper, like a built sniper, but you know, one or two people are packing it, that helps. It can be enough to have some kind of response to the situation and diminish the enemy trying to bait you, because then as long as you're firing on it, it has to keep dodging you. You can you could kind of like stall it, you know, and what have you. But yeah, that I don't, to actually have a sniper be able to have the mods, you know, increase that damage, bullet penetration, increase damage, whatever, you know, penetration stuff, headshots, I mean, it's great. Of course, that sniper on the team is going to have a problem in close range, usually, because they have to rely on a sidearm for everything. So, you know, you got to keep them safe. If you see somebody sniping, you got to protect them, just like you got to protect the doctor. Anyway, so just think about that. Everybody has a role to play, and when they're not able to be there to do that role, it's like, it's tough. All right, so we talked about a whole lot about explosives. We talked about items. We talked about rarity. We talked about trauma. We talked about map modifiers and corruption cards. We talked about countering enemies with different damage types, enemies and hordes, and that balance. And we talked about supply lines getting more expensive, and you know, trying to knock out. You can certainly focus one build, but I think the more that you play, the more you're going to want to understand how other people are contributing. If you're like me, you will. That's why I made so many decks, because sometimes somebody will be playing as Holly, and presumably that's a melee build, so I will play as KARLEE, or I'll play as a doc. A lot of times I'm playing as a doc or mom in a support role. And that brings me to like one final like observation for today, is that there is no requirement for you to build any class specifically to the strengths of that class. Like I could make Holly a sniper, and I could make, it's all about the card system, right? The role that their card plays does help, but it doesn't prevent them from filling other roles in the group. It's all about the role. So you could totally mix and match it and go off in a different direction. You could turn mom into a tank. You know, you could turn HOFFMAN into a melee dude. It doesn't matter. Like these things, they benefit the whole team regardless. So that's one thing. But if I had to categorize it, I feel like it begins with Walker and Jim and their benefit from precision kills. It makes me feel that they're your preferred options for ranged, for ranged DPS. Both probably Jim more the sniper and Walker more like, whatever. I don't know, automatic rifle or also a sniper or who knows, right? Another like rifle or something like that. Evangelo's ability to break out of grabs suggests that he may be in the mix, and his stamina his stamina regen suggests that he's going to be able to kite enemies, which might be a role for him. More kiting rather than full-on like engagement, but Holly's full-on engagement. So in terms of like in the mix skirmishers, they seem really adept at those jobs. Mom has the ability to instantly revive a teammate once per level, every teammate, and Doc has the ability to heal each teammate for 25 health once per level. So it's like a heal on top of any other heal that she can do with with items and stuff. So they definitely help keep the team up, and then that leaves HOFFMAN and KARLEE. HOFFMAN deals with a very important issue of just adding a percentage of max ammo. So like these percentages presumably are additive, so it's good to have another 10%. That means something, and especially across the whole team. And he will add an offense inventory, which means you'll get another grenade, which is really important for dealing with problems, right? But KARLEE, on the other hand, she provides a quick inventory slot, which means, in some cases more people are escaping death, by using the stun gun, or more people are, people are afford more ammo for themselves, or they're able to, defibrillate more often, or open up more locked doors, for the caches. So that's also very useful, and it's about utility. Her team use speed helps with objective-based missions where there's a progress bar that you gotta deal with, right? So that's also very good. KARLEE's awesome at that. And then KARLEE can sense nearby hazards and mutations. So the way that I've experienced it is primarily with the sleepers, the dudes that hang on the wall. I need to play more with her so I can see how it works, but she'll say something doesn't feel right, like she has like a psychic ability or something, and then she will see through a wall the whole like perimeter in a shaded color of where that sleeper is. Like once you know what it is, you can kind of tell what that shape is, which is really cool. But the problem is I can't ping it through the wall, so unless I have eyes on it, I can't ping it for the team. That means is your job as KARLEE to run over there if you can safely and shoot that shit before it gets to other people. And that could be like a huge benefit. That means that people don't have to like stress and like use extra ammo chasing and fighting, going into areas like trying to get to a location that they wouldn't have had to because you got there quietly and dealt with the thing. So that could be really awesome. But some people like to play into KARLEE's personality and just like run around, avoid shit, and like do her own thing. She's an assassin that doesn't need the team, sort of. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how everybody takes every character depending on their interpretation. But because of that duality, that very loose duality, they're all individual and certainly it doesn't matter. I have like a feeling that that 4 characters that kind of separate those roles of like, range DPS, support, melee, and utility would make the best rounded out teams for 4 players that are like actually coordinating and thing in the rare case. All right, so I don't know if that matters, but just something I thought about, and I wanted to share it because sometimes when you're doing a quick play, for example, and you're seeing 2 or 3 people already filled out, and you're thinking, who do I want to play as? If you have different decks and you want to experiment, you might want to try to fill in what that team needs, or what that team is most lacking, or what isn't being resolved. You might have to be the sniper. You might have to be the medic. You know, you might have to provide the utility that balances them out. You might have to do something like that. So if you want to increase the chances of making it to the finish line, so just think about that. You know, and like I said, it doesn't have to be that character, because you can always take the build that you created and just apply it to somebody else. Just something to think about. Lastly, I want to talk about, and I mentioned this in my last tips video about stealth. Okay, so you won't always find a suppressor, and you won't always have melee. You won't always have a dagger. Okay, but it really does transform the experience from a crazy chaotic one where like 9 times out of 10 nobody survives. I mean, today was rough. I started off with some pretty sensible runs that were nice. I got like, I think 2 or 3 supply lines unlocked today, but then for like the latter half of the day, it was just like mind crushing. Like it was just death and madness, and just I was like, what the hell? Did they flip a switch, or did these people just skip recruit difficulty and they don't have the dex and they're like jumping into veteran? Like it was just, we were falling apart. I mean, it was constantly happening. I started to lose my shit, and then I started making mistakes because I was getting frazzled by the whole thing. But on the occasion where the team is moving more deliberately, it seems like with more people using melee and the occasional person using a suppressor, the whole tone of the match changes. It's still tense because at any moment something could get messed up, but you do make more gains throughout the map. That you're able to progress farther before an event occurs rather than events happening back to back. There's a lot of people that are not going to be interested in that because they like the tension and they like the momentum of it. But you know, just I don't know, man. Just I strongly suggest that more deliberate and in some ways stealthy gameplay. Like if you're not prepared to do that, but somebody else on your team is very active with like in melee, like they always have like a machete out, or they're going up to enemies and then knifing them. You see that happening? Just protect them, you know, and protect them. You could shoot close range, but you don't have to necessarily. You can leave the sniping to the person who's just handling the mutations. But for little guys, you can just deal with them as you come up to them. And as long as you don't set up any alarms, then all the grunt enemies can be taken down very quietly, and you can make pretty good progress throughout the map until you are aware that you can't like get past like a snitch, for example, and then you set up the play. Oh, almost forgot. Rewind to grenades. I confirmed it today that a way to deal with a snitch is the same way you would deal with like a hag. And this is one option, which is the flashbang. I've heard somebody say that if you have melee that can stagger, and you know it can, then you can go up to both, and then that'll leave them open for attack. But I think the flashbang is safer. So if you're anticipating, like if it says there's a fog in the corruption cards and there's a dangerous thing awaiting you, and it's probably they're talking about the hag, or you get a sense that this is a mission where the hag shows up. And by the way, the flashbang also works, although for less amount of time, on the ogre. So keep that in mind. But the flashbang also causes them to take increased damage for the period of time that they're stunned. So it's not just there to make them go, oh, it's there to help you get this window where you can really maximize damage. So just think about that. Somebody who likes using flashbangs can make a lot of use out of them for these big targets. But you can stun the snitch, and they'll be stunned, and you can finish it off if you have concentrated fire on them before it summons a horde. If any of these tips helped you out, then that's awesome, because that's all I really wanted to do. I think this game is super cool, and I think it's cool to talk strats with folks. And if you guys discover something or a strategy that works in the game and you guys want to share it with me, then yeah, by all means, hop into twitch.tv/dangerlander1k and we can strategize and maybe even play along together, and it'll be cool. All right. Take care of yourselves and each other, and may the Dangerlands favor you. Thank you for watching. I'm mad tired. I'm going to bed. Peace out.